Tonight at 7 o'clock, we have a live stream with Trinity professor Carey Latimore that is all about Juneteenth. And with a preview of that live stream, we have Trinity history professor Carey Latimore with us. Obviously, we're going to dive deeper into Juneteenth when we get on at 7 o'clock. But what is one thing that is misunderstood about Juneteenth? I
think one of the things, and there are a number of things that are misunderstood about Juneteenth, June 19th, 1865. And the first thing, I think the most important, is that this was the last time that a slave was actually a enslaved person in the United States. It took the ratification of the 13th Amendment to finally free the final people who were enslaved in the United States. So Juneteenth is the day that the slaves in Texas were theoretically freed, although not all of them were because the word had to travel. But it is a day that African Americans in Texas commemorated that day, and they celebrated that day. So it is a Emancipation Day of sorts.
Yeah.
And now Texas obviously plays a key role in this holiday, but this is something that is celebrated throughout the country.
Absolutely. And the reason is because people are migrating. And so, you have those enslaved people in Galveston. They hear that. It travels out of Galveston to the farms and the plantations nearby. And then later on, perhaps those formerly enslaved persons, those free people, they move to other areas and they still celebrate. So they took that day, they remembered that day, they celebrated that day. They gave the memories of those days to their children, their grandchildren, and their great-great-grandchildren, and on to today.
So you grew up in Virginia. Hope you don't mind me pointing that out to
people.
Not at all. But was Juneteenth a big celebration for you growing up?
No, I really did not hear about Juneteenth until really I moved to San Antonio, and that was 16, 17 years ago. Even in graduate school, it's not something that we really discussed, and I guess it was kind of the times. And Virginia had different kinds of Emancipation Days. I know some days were celebrated, but June 19th was not something that I remember celebrating at all.
And it does seem like there is a lot more awareness and knowledge about the history of this celebration, the reasons for it, just in the last year, last couple of years. So what does that say to you, that something that is rooted in our history and has been around for so long, we're really just getting to the point where so many more people are commemorating that?
I think in many ways, African American history is becoming more widespread in people's knowledge. And I think we're now as a nation starting to recognize that we've not told all of the stories, and those stories need to be told. So stories like Tulsa, Colfax, there are a lot of other riots and massacres and other kinds of experiences in the African American experience that we haven't heard. And Juneteenth was one of those, but it's also an Emancipation Day. It's a day in which people celebrate. They had parties, they had celebrations, and so I think we're sharing that now with the larger America, and in a sense, we're sharing it with the world. And I think the world is interested, and the United States is interested in hearing that story and celebrating it with us.
For people that don't know, Juneteenth was when Texas slaves officially learned they were free.
Yes.
Why did it take so long from Emancipation Day till June 19th to get to Texas?
Well, and the Civil War ends, how does the Civil War end? You have Lee, he surrenders his forces in April, but Texas is kind of on a hinterland out there. And so, there's still some skirmishes happening out there. And so in May, you have the last real battles. They're more like skirmishes of the Civil War. They're not really that bad. One of them is down at Fort Brown in Brownsville, Texas. And then finally, Texas is opened up after the Army kind of basically surrenders down here. Texas is opened up, and General Granger comes into it and he issues out his general orders. He brings the Emancipation Proclamation, really the order with him, because that means that now it can be issued formally. And he issues out the Emancipation Proclamation, really, and says that slaves here, former slaves, are now free people. And they can celebrate and they can enjoy their steps into a new life.
And what do those celebrations look like today? Is that something, the history of those celebrations itself, has that changed over time?
I think in many ways it has changed. I've seen some Juneteenth posts that talk about, real kind of celebrations, baseball games, other kinds of things, barbecues. I think perhaps in the early years it was older people who remembered that day, they were telling about that. And so it kind of changed and shifts and shapes itself depending on who's still around and who's telling the story and the times that we're living in. I think because of the times that we're living in currently, I think it's going to tie to a lot of things that are currently happening. So Juneteenth is a holiday and a celebration that can really fit into all the things that we're talking about in American history right now.
Coming up in the live stream at 7 o'clock on KSAT.com, Trinity University's website, as well as the KSAT TV app, I want to get into more San Antonio and Juneteenth, some of the traditions with red food in Juneteenth, where that came from. But I want to ask you right now, do you believe Juneteenth should be celebrated by more than just blacks?
Absolutely. The African American experience is an American experience. And you don't have America without the African American experience in that. You don't know what liberty is. We talk about these principles of life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness, justice, liberty. And the African American experience is kind of our mirror, our window into seeing and understanding what that means. How do you know what liberty is if you don't understand what the reverse of that is? And so we think about our founders and how they talked about slavery and freedom and justice. The African American experience, I think, is part of what they're thinking about, maybe not necessarily consciously, but perhaps subconsciously. They know what slavery is. They understand it. And I think as a nation, we too must understand it, grasp that African American experience and understand it, and to keep it dear to us, because those principles, those ideals are ideals that the formerly enslaved people at Juneteenth recognized and they wanted. And when they had Juneteenth on that day, when they celebrated, they didn't celebrate just what America was. They were celebrating what America could be, a hope and a promise. A hope that they could have a better day, and a promise, the promises of America, life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. That's what the promises were to them, and that's what it meant to them, and that's what they wanted Juneteenth to be for them from that day on to now.
And that's something all Americans should be able to get behind.
Absolutely.
Yeah, something we can all learn more about. Perhaps not you, Dr. Latimore. You're going to
there's a lot that I have to learn too.
You're going to educate all of us during this live stream. Again, that's coming up at 7 o'clock on KSAT.com, as well as the Trinity website. Juneteenth Town Hall with Dr. Carey Latimore, history professor with Trinity University. We always appreciate your time.
Good to see you in person.
Likewise.
Yeah.
Likewise.
Via
First
Zoom.
time.
We'll be right back.